Yes, you saw the thumbnail right. You saw the title right. It is a retcon, or should I say, a redo of What If Deku Was Tristan Part 4. And if you didn't watch the original Part 4, or you just don't care, just skip to this time on the screen. Now, if you were wondering why I am doing a retcon, or should I say, a redo of What If Deku Was Tristan Part 4, yeah, it is because whenever I posted the original Part 4 of this series, you guys hated me for giving One for All to Bakugo. So I guess I should apologize. Sorry for giving One for All to Bakugo. Please forgive me. And after reading through all of the comments on the original Part 4 video, I put up a poll on my community tab, asking if I should redo that part, which of course most of you said yes. And beside yes and no, there was also one more choice on that poll, which is basically an apology gift because I asked you guys if I should add something new into the story, which of course most of you said yes, or should I say most of you clicked that choice. So yeah, I'm adding more things into the story. Now, with that out of the way, let's begin the story. But first, intro. Hello everybody, Killer Winston here, and today I will be doing with Deku Was Tristan Part 4. So, in the last part, Deku just basically saved Bakugo from the sludge villain. And as for who I'm going to give One for All to, yeah, don't worry, you'll see later. Now, continuing the story, after being basically swarmed by reporters, Deku would have been going back home, but that was when he would have saw Bakugo walking up to him basically yelling at Deku for, well, helping him and saving his butt, which Deku, after having to listen to Bakugo scream at him for like 8 years, he would have had enough, him basically snapping, as the demon mark would start to appear on Deku's forehead, him walking up to Bakugo even closer and grabbing him by his collar, as Deku would have pulled Bakugo closer to his own face, him saying, "Let me tell you one thing, Kachan. No, Katsuki. I hate you. I hate you with every single cell in my entire body. Do you know why? Because you have ruined my life for 8 freaking long years. Do you know how hard it is to be socially distant because of one accident I have no control over? An accident you caused. So let me give you one good advice, Katsuki Bakugo. Don't you ever touch my life ever again. If you do, as Deku, using his other hand, he would have grabbed Bakugo by his face, him throwing Bakugo to the wall beside them, Bakugo bouncing off of that wall as Deku would have grabbed Bakugo by his throat, him slamming Bakugo back onto the wall, him continuing to say, "I will make you feel something 100, no, 1,000 times more worse than death." As that was when All Might would have arrived, him telling Deku to let go of Bakugo, which Deku does, him releasing his grip on Bakugo's throat, with Bakugo dropping onto the ground gasping for air. All Might seeing that, he would have kneeled down and asked Bakugo if he is alright or not, which Bakugo would have just told All Might that he is fine and that he doesn't need All Might's help. Him getting back up and seeing that Deku's demon mark is already gone. Him saying, "Mark my words, Katsuki, I will not repeat it again." Him turning back and walking back home. But before he can take one more step, he would have turned back around and say, "Oh yeah, one more thing, Katsuki. I didn't save you because I thought you were my friend. I saved you because heroes needs to save everyone, including assholes like you." After he said that, he would immediately turn back around and continue to walk back home. All Might having to witness this entire, incident, he would have thought that both Deku and Bakugo are not worthy of getting One for All, since originally he thought that they are a good candidate of being his, successor. But after seeing that Bakugo is an ungrateful and arrogant kid, he would immediately stop that thought of Bakugo being his candidate, successor. And as for Deku, after All Might saw that he has a quote-unquote identity crisis, or should I say a personality disorder, he would also stop that thought of Deku being a successor, as right after he thought that, that was when Sir Nai would have called him. Him telling All Might that he found a successor to One for All, which of course you and I both know that it is Mirio. Yes, I am giving One for All to Mirio. Now we will time skip to the next day, with Bakugo and Deku both coming to school. And whenever they saw each other, yeah, Deku would have, of course, ignored Bakugo. Them continuing school just as usual, but whenever school ended, Bakugo would have saw something, let's say, unusual. Because let's just say that day, the students got more schoolwork, or should I say classwork, from the teachers. So they would have to stay at school for 15 minutes more. And whenever class ended, Deku would have immediately packed up his stuff and ran towards Takuba Beach. This confusing Bakugo, since normally Deku walks back home and not towards Takuba Beach. So Bakugo would have basically followed Deku. And whenever he arrived at Takuba Beach, he would have saw that there is a man standing there waiting for Deku, basically Zeldris, with Deku immediately putting down his stuffs and taking off his upper clothes. Him running over towards Zeldris and apologizing for being like 5 minutes late, as Zeldris would just basically chop Deku in the head and telling him that he is forgiven, with Deku asking Zeldris what they are going to be doing today, which Zeldris would just say that he is going to teach Deku how to materialize weapons with his, darkness. Deku being surprised, he would have said, "Wait, we can do that? Well, a small portion of us can, but since you are his son, you should be able to do it. Plus, if you learn it, you will be able to use full counter when you don't have a weapon, since you can simply make one." Deku being confused since he still doesn't know who this his person is, but he just thinks that this his person is the one with yellow hair inside his flashback. As Zeldris would continue to say, the technique is called rebellion. You basically need to concentrate your darkness into one weapon, and that weapon can only be a stabbing weapon. Deku asking, "So I can only make one weapon?" Well, for now, yes, but with training, you can make multiple weapons at once. As Deku would start to manipulate his darkness into a sword, him trying to materialize it. And over with Bakugo, he didn't heard what Deku and this other guy, aka Zeldris, was talking about, but he can basically get it. And what he get is that Deku is training and getting stronger day by day. This making Bakugo angry because he had just been sitting around his entire life. So he thinks that it is time for himself to get stronger as well. Now we will time skip to about 10 months later, and in those 10 months, both Deku and Bakugo would have been training. Deku learning to use Rebellion, and at max, he can create 4 weapons at once. As for Bakugo, he would have gotten a bit muscular, and his explosions would have been a bit stronger than his canon counterpart. As whenever both of them arrived at UA, they would have basically saw each other, but they still wouldn't have a normal conversation. With Deku noticing that Bakugo has gotten a bit more muscular, him trying to think of a reason of why Bakugo decided to train his body, since he almost never trains his entire life. But while he was thinking about that, he would have basically tripped. As whenever he did, that was when a piece of vine would have shoot out from the ground, it wrapping itself around Deku's stomach, or should I say his waist. It lifting Deku up in the air and putting him back onto the ground. Deku, of course, being confused, as he would start to look around, him seeing a girl kneeling down with both of her hands on the ground. Her just standing back up and walking towards Deku, asking if he is alright or not. Which Deku would have said, yes, I'm fine, thank you very much. Nah, don't mention it. But I gotta go because the presentation is about to begin. Oh, yes, of course. Them basically going inside UA. Also, if you were wondering why Deku is, well, like that, it is because, just like the anime, this is the first time Deku has talked to a girl that is not his mom. Now, inside UA, both Deku and, well, Bakugo would have been sitting right next to each other even though they don't want to, since you know they are from the same school. As President Mike would have started his presentation on the exam, and since Deku is basically not mumbling to himself, he wouldn't have been called out by Ida. But Ida would have still stood up and yelled at President Mike, because just like the anime, President Mike didn't explain the fourth robot, aka the Zero Pointer. As after President Mike's presentation of the exam, both Deku and Bakugo would have went to their exam areas, them being the same as the anime. But whenever Deku went to his exam area, he would have basically been recognized, with the ones who recognize him saying that he is the kid who saved someone from the sludge villain. And of course, this draws the attention of everyone around Deku, them basically crowding around Deku and asking him questions. With Deku, well, he would have simply tried to get away from everyone. And while he was trying to get away from all those people, he would have noticed that that girl who just saved him from tripping is standing right there, him thinking that he should ask for her quirk. But when he was thinking about that, he didn't look in front of him, and when he did, he would have bumped into Ida. Ida turning around and, of course, yelling at Deku, as Deku, knowing that he doesn't have much time left before the exam starts, he would have used a trick he used a long time ago. Him basically pointing at 45 degrees away from Ida. Him yelling, "Look, what's that?" Ida being confused, he would have turned around, and being even more confused because there isn't anything there. And whenever he looked back at Deku, Deku is, well, gone. Deku, after getting away from Ida, he would have thought, okay, I got away from that guy, now I just need to find. As that was when Deku would have heard the exam, well, start. Him continuing to think, her. Crap. As he immediately runs into the exam area, him destroying every robot that he sees. And while he was destroying robots, he would have thought, well, I guess I'll just have to find her after the exam. Now, after the exam started for about a couple minutes, Deku would have gotten at least 100 points. Him thinking that that is enough, he would have heard a giant, well, sound. Him looking around to see that there is a giant robot. And whenever he saw that giant robot, he would have heard a girl scream. Him thinking that that girl sounds familiar, he would have ran towards that giant robot. And whenever Deku got there, he would have saw that the girl who saved him from tripping is under a giant rock, or should I say a giant piece of a building. Her trying to get out of it, but her vines are not strong enough. The girl, knowing that, she would have tried to wrap more vines around that giant rock, while the zero-pointer is getting closer and closer by the second. Deku, seeing that the girl is in danger, he would have immediately rushed in, him stopping right next to the girl, as he would have used his darkness. Him wrapping his darkness around that giant piece of rock, and lifting it up, him asking the girl if she is alright or not, which the girl would simply said yes, as Deku would have turned around and throw that giant piece of rock into the zero-pointer, this causing the zero-pointer to stumble back a bit, with Deku telling the girl to basically run, which the girl does for about 2 seconds, her immediately turning back and asking, "Well, what about you?" Which Deku would simply said, "Don't worry, I'll be fine, go!" Which the girl does, as Deku would have turned around and looking straight at the zero-pointer, him whispering, "Rebellion," as a sword made out of darkness would have appeared on Deku's right arm, or should I say his right hand. But when Deku did that, the zero-pointer would have smashed its hand into Deku. This, of course, shocking everyone there because they just thought that Deku was killed by the zero-pointer. But whenever they thought that Deku is basically dead, the zero-pointer's hand would have been immediately sliced into a billion pieces. This, of course, shocking everyone there, as they would have saw Deku just staying there at the same position, him without a single scratch, as Deku would have created a ball of hell blaze inside his left hand, or well, his left palm, him firing that ball of hell blaze towards the zero-pointer, and whenever he did, he would have just turned around and closed his left hand into a fist, as that ball of hell blaze would have immediately exploded, it completely destroying the entire zero-pointer, with the zero-pointer being evaporated into nothing but dust, and everyone who just saw Deku completely evaporate the zero-pointer, including the teachers, they would have been completely speechless and, well, shocked, because this kid just destroyed, no, completely disintegrated a robot the size of a building. And after Deku completely destroyed the entire zero-pointer, or should I say completely wiped the 0-pointer from the face of the earth, the exam would have ended, with Recovery Girl and some other heroes arriving on the exam, area. Them being there to, of course, heal the wounded. And whenever Recovery Girl checked on Deku, she would have been shocked to see that Deku seriously do not have one wound, not even one scratch. Now, after being checked by Recovery Girl, the girl who was just saved by Deku would have walked up to Deku and thanked him, which Deku would simply reply by saying, "Oh, don't mention it, it's what a hero should do. Oh yeah, I haven't introduced myself yet. Hi, I'm Izuku Midoriya, nice to meet you." Him extending out his hand, with the girl taking his hand and shaking it, her saying, "Hi, my name is Delia, nice to meet you, Izuku." Which Deku would have been both confused and flustered. He is confused because she didn't speak her last name, and he is flustered because he had just been called Izuku, his first name, and the only other persons, or should I say people, who called him that is Zeldris and his mom. So, yeah. As she would have asked Deku what his power is, which Deku would just say that his quirk is Hellblaze and Full Counter. Him also asking Delia what her quirk is, which Delia would just say, "Oh, my magic power is disaster. No, I mean nature. My magic power is nature." Which Deku would have been confused by, since she is calling quirks magic power. But he wouldn't think too much about it because she is currently explaining how she, use her quirk, or powers. Now, that will be the end of this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please like, comment, and subscribe. That will be amazing, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!